my fair economics video, maybe, maybe, I don't know, we'll see where it goes. Anyway, it's on economics, it's the modern mystic. Just posted a very simple statement here. It's worth discussing. So I haven't read the comments yet, so I thought I would just read the comments and say what I got to say on the subject and call it a video. Anyway, so imagine everyone got paid the same amount, from students to top manager types. Well, why don't we include everyone, like get rid of the owners too. That's it. List where problems would arise. Yeah, see, the real problem I think in the world isn't top manager types. I don't know what you mean by CEOs. Is that included? Because yeah, I think that they're really overpaid. So just the idea that, so this would be the extreme case, and you'd certainly have to qualify this. Is this like per hour they're paid the same amount, or what? How are you gonna? There's lots of little details you could sit there and play with. I mean, the obvious problem with paying everybody the same amount is does that include students? Like, what do we pay students? I mean, you said students, so that would make sense to me. Yeah, if we paid students to learn, that's a good idea. And then you paid people to become doctors and all that kind of stuff, so it didn't cost them anything extra. There's lots of people who would want to do that stuff, whether they got paid a lot of money or not. They would just enjoy that kind of work. Obviously, you wouldn't have the same kind of incentives if just everything was flat. So the problem is you don't have any incentive to improve yourself, kind of thing. Obviously, there'd be disproportions between high risk work should get paid more, that kind of thing. So there's lots of little problems like that. So yeah, I would say that it would have to be augmented to allow for a little bit of progressive increases. So even if you just limited to, imagine if everybody got paid, within a range of, the highest paid gets 10 times more than the lowest paid, or 5 times, whatever the number would be. Then you could see how you could have a system that, could have enough incentive in it for people to migrate to, do extra work. You create carrots. You got to have carrots in the system. You have to have incentives. So incentive economics is what I classify my economics as. But yeah, I would argue that you don't, the students to manager types, you don't need the owners, and the owners are the ones taking the highest salaries now. So that would be a good one to get rid of, is the owners. So anyway, everybody needs to be the entire world populace. So that's another one that's tricky. Are we going to split everything up? And that's another option here. It's just we divide all the wealth that exists beforehand and give everybody their shares, their fair shares per person. But then even that gets complicated, because the people who already have a lot of debt shouldn't have all their debt erased. I mean, that's just kind of unfair to the people that were frugal and saved their money. So, you gotta fix that somewhere. Alright, so Mystic, fine, I'll call that option number 1. 1, it must be applied globally. 2, it would entail mass authoritarian structures. Yeah, well, I mean, compared to what? I mean, the authority of who? We're already technically under authoritarian structures, in that the rich can buy our politicians, and they can buy influence and buy policy and buy law. So, I'd rather we the people own the store than individuals owning the store, or a mob of the 1%. The mob that is the 1%, I don't have any respect for them. Why should they be driving the bus? I suspect that just being in charge would work for some people without getting paid more money. Well, it's not about more money, so this guy's not even on the subject. They would thrive on being in charge. Well, maybe he's making the argument that manager types would like manager jobs just because it's more fun to be a manager than a lowly worker. So I think that's obviously true. However, being in charge needs its perks in a society where things can be in scarce supply. Say a woman in China, or elephant tusk, or Jaguar cars. It might work where all consumable items are oversupply, so no one fights over them. I don't see where supply would be a problem. If everybody has the same income, prices would stabilize. You would assume that debt would be minimal, because there's nobody with a huge amount of money to go lending it to everybody else. There wouldn't be huge acquisitions or surplus, would there? No. That's another issue, is wealth acquisition and empire creating. Obviously, if everybody's getting paid the same, you're not going to create those kind of instruments. So as long as you get rid of the artifacts, if you grandfather the rich out, then it's certainly more practical that way. So it would sort of be a necessity of it, would be grandfathering the current rich out, I guess. Having an organized society or civilized society that allows money to do the fighting for scarce goods works well if you have the opportunity to make more. I don't know if this whole idea of fighting for scarce goods, that just ends up being, the fight is stupid, because it's like the fight for a house now is the fight for who can get a bank to give them the most money. So we're outbidding each other with borrowed money, which is a really stupid way to fight. That's like fighting with anthrax or something. That's a fight that'll get your family killed. Since it's all relative, more does not have to be a lot of money, just more, but not the same. So we agree there. You need incentives. There is no such word as a lot, but I think you said it would make sharing resources difficult. That's the mystic's reply. Oh, I have been very good not using a lot. I sort of slipped in there for you. Well, whatever. It didn't get me very far. So Lyle, he thinks the old 20% of the people do 80% of the work rule still dominated. There would be lots of problems among the ranks. Yeah, well, obviously you have to have some sort of obligation to work. That would be part of this thing, I suppose. To get your share. But yeah, I mean, it's like it creates, like I said, it's too extreme a solution. I think you have to have a solution where there's a range of salaries would make more sense. Akin to CSA's starting comment, I think it would then be more or solely dependent on personal types, personal interests, and skill sets. I pay my super web geek the most because it's incredibly complex. Because it's become incredibly complex versus the early days of essentially simple HTML. For us, the website is the business. No website or shitty website, no jobs, or whatever that means. If all were paid equally, such dependencies would likely create some power plays or forms of manipulation outside of pay. Well, obviously perks and benefits and all kinds of other under-the-table crap would be part of the deals being made. But, illegal behavior is illegal behavior, technically, so that obviously can be discouraged with the right penalties. I often try to view money pay as energy transfers when I feed my cats or myself or pay my employees. Well, fuck you. They're all part of a long chain of energy transfers. Smiley face. Yeah, fuck you, you employers. Anyway, would likely go wacko if all were paid the same. EROI. I don't even know what that means. There would be imbalances of energies popping out in places you wouldn't want them to be popping out, as in personalities and behaviors. I don't know. One could say that the monies would be the same, but the metabolism rates would differ and not likely to balance out. Well, how badly people spent their money is an issue no matter how much money they make, so I don't think that's going to be any more of a problem. Lottery winners do piss it all away, generally speaking. To give your comment a number, I would need to know an example of two of what excesses deficiencies may develop. And as for your webman, he may do complex things, but so does a gardener. What is your point? Yeah, well, in my opinion, work is work. In the sense that, like I said, there's obvious distinctions between, picking up garbage and being a night watchman. One, you're almost risking your life playing with the garbage. The other one, you're almost it's almost free time to think and write and do whatever you want. So obviously there'd be differences in jobs where you'd have to have some accounting for the fact that this labor is, some compromises your health and well-being. But I suppose if people would be willing to do it, it'd be okay. But I just think there's a point where people wouldn't be willing, to go into to the coal mine if they could get a job doing something else. The innate power of the higher skill would pay out in unwanted behaviors to a much larger extent. Would Pan it play out? Yeah, that's what it says. Well, whatever. Well, again, if you're going to have rules, you either enforce rules or you don't enforce rules. So I guess I would argue that arguments saying you can't do it because people would cheat, well, people only cheat because we let them. Damn humans are not going to like this, bro. God, I'd ban this guy right for that one. What I is saying is that some jive ass... Well, fuck this. I'm just going to bother reading that. Morning, Nick. My immediate thought was that people would feel that the profit motive had been removed, making them think there is no point in working harder than the next man or woman. Yeah, well, that's you really have to have carrots. You have to incentivize to get people to work harder or as hard as they can, or any of those kind of, I'm not for beating the hell out of workers, but you gotta give people reason to work. And yeah, if all they have to do is keep up with the asshole next door, well, that's, they're gonna slide down to the lowest common denominator. People just run with the idea there is. Not sure what the implication of that would be, though. Thanks for seeing that the working harder idea may be a red herring. Thanks for seeing that. Okay, so in here you were saying that. Then I remember that there is no solid correlation to how hard one works and earnings anyway. Well, I think there are. Because all the examples you could provide are in a system where there are perks to, like, long-term benefits in your job for doing a job well. So if those perks no longer existed, if you had no sense that somebody might see you're doing a good job, I just don't know if personal self-esteem would be enough to matter. It just might make you call in sick when you're not really sick. I mean, I just think it would tend to drive your behavior down if all you had to do was do as good as the other asshole to get the same money. You know what I mean? If you're going to get the same money for trying harder as you're going to get for not trying so hard, yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. I can't help but think that everyone getting the same implies everyone gets enough all. Whatever that means. I wish these people could write English. That leads me to imagine black market economies except in Cuba. Well, Cuba doesn't have anything to do with people getting paid the same. Big topic. I suspect there is something to be learned from Cuba. Well, this is stupid. If memory serves me right, they abandoned this idea. Well, I don't think that's part of your memory. I don't think they ever had an idea of paying everybody the same. Although I suspect that there really never was equality of pay. Yeah, you suspect correctly that you just made that shit up. Equality of pay, as I suggest above, was perhaps just code for the have-nots get what they are given. The have-nots get what they are given. I don't know. This isn't about welfare, this is about working. So, you're not even on the subject, buddy. Alright, just watched the Canadian men's hockey team defeat Sweden. I'm guessing the team where all paid the same, zero other than expenses to play. However, they still needed the incentive to win something like the gold medal. Well, I mean, obviously they get a lot more than a gold medal. They get endorsement contracts and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah. So Mystic said, please think about that some more. Yeah, that's a reasonable encouragement. Alright, how could you prevent people from making more exchanges with people who have better product services than their competitors? How could you prevent people from making more exchanges with people? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. If there are two barters, and it's not about barter, it's about work, and one blind, people will want to exchange more with the not blind one, and he'll end up getting paid more, the blind barber. It's not even written well. So I guess if you forced everyone to get paid the same amount, then half the people in town will have shitty haircuts. Well, how much they get paid doesn't have much to do with whether you choose to go to a blind barber or not. I don't think anybody's suggesting blind people should be barbers. I mean, wow. Can't even get even close to on the subject. Anyway, perhaps this system might create, Mystic says, thanks for using the word money. Let me see. So I guess this is just a reiteration of objection 2. It would entail mass authoritarian structures. Well, again, we are already being controlled by authorities. So, sorry no one sent you that memo. Perhaps this system might create troublesome job vacancies and stressful kinds of work. For example, the surgeon might decide to abandon surgery for floral design. Well, the point would be is the surgeon would be, paid to do the amount of surgery he felt commensurate to what he's getting paid, right? So that's the problem. Is the job might be less stressful if he doesn't feel the pressure to do more work. So it depends on how much you're going to pay surgeons, and for surgery. So this is where it gets complicated, because this per hour thing, you could just say that a surgeon can make it. You can add a lot of hours to a surgery by just talking about prep work, and I got to meditate, I get myself in the mood. So I could add a lot of hours to a surgery, and obviously there'd be real efficiency problems that way. But I mean, obviously if you're not getting paid extra, you're not going to do extra. So yeah, the idea of the long hours and all that kind of stuff isn't going to really happen unless they're getting paid extra for those hours. I mean, that's the first rule of this scenario. Air traffic controllers, firemen, and trust me, vast numbers of public school teachers in the United States might say, wow, it's time to reinvent myself. LOL. School teachers is a stressful job? I don't think so. I don't see that this as a real concern. Within reason, I see people doing stressful, challenging jobs for many different reasons. Yeah, some jobs are fun that are stressful, actually. Where you feel like you're important. So I don't know how far that goes. I mean, theoretically, if I had my druthers, just because of the mood I'm in, I would, choose, if I had the choice, the job that was the most undemanding. I just had to be there. I just basically had to show up and go yes, no, or whistle or something. So yeah, if I could get a job where I just have to be a body that stands and sits in a chair or something, I'm probably going for that. So anyway, I don't know what these little... this isn't saying anything. Transportation system, healthcare. There's no statements here. All assets, energy, cost. I don't know. So can't make anything out of that. So I don't know. It seems like there's some sort of missing comments here or something. But it's not my website, so I'm not going to worry about it. It does look like 23 comments, but it does seem like there was something missing here. So anyway, in overview, wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be. Yeah, I think it'd just be much better to go to if you're going to speculate about ways of improving the system, I would just go with the idea of publicly owned businesses. Publicly owned or not owned. Publicly initiated but not for profit businesses. So you have some mechanism where a percentage of the public and the employees of a company, by some percentage, elect the management of the company. So you can't let the employees elect it, because then they just elect a management that says everybody gets the day off or the year off and a bonus. So, but if the public's in on the election, that's going to keep everybody straight, because we're both consumers and employees. I've made this point before. That's the two interests we have. We have an interest as a consumer to get the best prices possible. We have interests as workers to try to get the best wages as possible. And there just has to be a balance between those two things. But the very idea of running a business is not brain surgery. Government ruins it because of government unions and perks and patronage. There's a bunch of people running the government, especially in the management positions, who are just political operatives. They're just wives of some judge or some other kind of crap like that. They don't know how to do any of these jobs. They're not competent. They haven't been elected. They were just appointed, just like the CEOs of companies. Most of them are assholes and idiots. And it's all about name recognition and, some perception of, he's a good motivational speaker or something. Some sort of crap. But it's way overdone. So I'm just saying, the idea of managing a company is not brain surgery. You find your market, and there's all these, you take a couple years of business school, you can learn all kinds of little techniques for selling widgets, and what the requirements of your bottom line are in terms of maintaining your infrastructure and keeping your employees happy and screwing your customers, right to the edge of irritating. But don't go over that edge. Don't piss anybody off too much, but just be enough of a shyster. But obviously, if it's a public interest company, it won't have those incentives, so they'll just do a legitimate job of hiring employees, do the work, and they're going to be judged for how well they manage the company. So it just isn't brain surgery, running businesses, running the means of production. And we really just don't need these welfare whores called the wealthy. We don't need the owners. I wish people could realize that. They produce nothing of value. They consume value. That's simple. Anyway, until next time.